Welcome to episode 79. This is the second block, which makes up a beautiful quilt using 79 and the block from episode 78, which I uploaded last week. Again, this is using the potato chip format, which I'm using a 2.5 by 4.5. These are generally the colors that I'm going to be using. So for the first section of the block, it is a big one. It's 22 inches unfinished. You're going to need to make 2 that are like this, 2 of this and 2 of this, so 4 all together. And it's simply taking a pair of potato chips, sewing them right sides together, so you'll end up with a 4.5 inch square, and then you'll be adding another one on top. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these up, and then I'll show you the next one. The next section requires making 2 of these, which are 2 of your mid-tone and a darker potato chip joined together with a 1/4 inch seam. This is what it looks like when it's joined together. I will give this a good press, and you are making 2 of those. So the next part is to take one each of these 3-piece units that we've made, and we're now going to take another potato chip darker and add it to the bottom. Because you have 2 of these and 2 of these, you're only adding it to 1 of each. So we will join these with 1/4 inch, and again you only need 1 with the dark facing to the right and 1 with the dark facing to the left. Okay, so I have these sewn together, and then what you want to do is making sure that this is on the right hand side. You're actually going to join another that has the right hand side to the bottom of it. And before you join these together, each one of these blocks, this should be 6.5 by 4.5 wide, and this one should be 4.5 wide by 8.5 deep. So I will join these together to look like that. I hope you can see it in the view. And the opposite is like this one here. So you know you have it right if you have some facing, if all the darks are facing into the center. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you the next part. Okay, so now that we have these sewn together, they are actually identical blocks. It's just in the final assembly, one's going to be turned the other way to look like that. So next we'll do the center part, and I'll show you how that goes. So you would have seen the same layout of a block in the last video, number 78, and this will serve as our center of our big block. So it is a partial seam. So what I'm going to do is to move these aside for now. I'm going to join this to here, right sides together. And then what I will do is I will pin it, and I will stop about halfway down here. And then I'll press that over, and then I can just start joining this because these will be complete. And then I'll show you the next steps from there. So I've gone ahead and I've sewn this on, and then I gave it a good press up here, and then this was joined at the top with a 1/4 inch seam, and it's pressed open. So now it's starting to take shape. So we will take another potato chip and add it to this side, so it'll be like this, and this will complete this seam. So let me go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. So here's the last section to be added on. So I have these all pressed nicely, and because we've kept this open, you're going to make sure that this lays flat, and then right sides together and do a nice 1/4 inch seam, and this will all come together nicely. So just like that, and then sew it across, flips open, and then you have this last section to sew together. So I'll do this and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so all we have left to do now is just to join this one part of the seam. It is a partial seam, so what I will do is right side together and pin this, and then just continue the seam along here and then give it a good press. If this technique scares you, you can go ahead and sub it by using potato chip here. Use 2.5-inch squares for your center part, another potato chip, and then another 2.5-inch square. That takes all the joining and partial seams out of it, but I encourage you to give this a try because it really is that simple. Okay, so now that I have the center all complete, I will take 3 of the rails and add one to the top and one with the bottom. It might be to your benefit for matching to adjust which way your seams are pressing so that they nest. On here it's going this way, so I'm actually going to force this one to press towards the inside, and I'll do the opposite on the bottom. So I'll be right back once I have this all done. Okay, so now that the center sections are all joined together, I hope you can see this in the frame. We're going to take the 2 sides and now join those to the right and to the left. And again, taking care of any crossovers that you might need to watch. There's just one on each side, so again you can manipulate the seams so that they nest properly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you how we finish this up. So I've got the center block all sewn together. I hope you can see it all in the view. I'm just showing you how these dark parts are in the center, and then we have the lighter background facing out, almost like an E and then a backwards E. So next I'm going to sew some low volume strips onto each side. And what I figured, because I'm using potato chips, I've got 3 up, and then I'm going to add a 2.5-inch square. So that'll take care of one side, and then I'll do the other on the other side. And once that's done, then I'll be adding a strip on the top and bottom. I do like to stagger where the squares go. So when I go to do the top, since I have a square in the upper right, I will put on the side, I'll put one on the upper left when I go to join on the top. And then I'll do the opposite on the bottom here. So just to show you, so then I'll put a 2.5-inch square here, and then I'll put the strips completing it here. I'll take some pictures and show you as I'm going along, and then I'll show you what comes next. Okay, so I now have the low volume border sewn all around. I folded this up just so you could see the block better for what I'm going to be doing next. I'm going to be joining this to the other block that was done last week in episode 78, and I don't want a double block border. So what I'm opting to do is to add it on the sides and then on the top. And what I'll do is I'll make 2 of these blocks, and then I have 2 of the 78 made, and then I'm going to eventually join them together. But I've also decided I'm doing these as a quilt as you go. So once I have all 4 blocks made, I'm going to back them with batting and a backing material, and then I will quilt each one individually, and then I'll start joining them together. I'll be doing that all in episode 80. And then you'll get to see what it looks like and how it all plays out. So in the meantime, we're going to add some black potato chips. If you have 2.5-inch binding, you can certainly add that as well. And again, it's the same as just measuring when you go around. And then if you have an intersection, then you may decide to put a 2.5-inch square if it doesn't go all the way to the bottom. So let me get this done and then I'll show you what it looks like. So here's the finished block with the black sewn on to the 3 sides. And it will be joined with the one we did in a previous episode, episode 78. So please stick around until I show you how they join together. That'll be in episode 80. So until then, sew safely and sew with Debee. Bye for now.